The restaurant held an unusual tranquility that morning, the type of hush that made even the gentle tap of ceramic cups seem overly pronounced. Golden rays filtered through the expansive glass panes, illuminating the polished chrome table edges and creating sparkles across the crystal condiment containers. In the secluded corner booth resided Walter Branson, an 81-year-old veteran of the Korean conflict who arrived here each morning precisely at 8:15. He donned his cherished plaid shirt, worn thin at the joints, alongside a pair of sturdy leather boots that had weathered more seasons than most occupants of the establishment had experienced in their lifetimes. His fingers trembled faintly as he raised his cup of pure black coffee. Yet his gaze, though weary, held the serene honor of a man who had once confronted terror in combat. However, that peaceful morning was destroyed in a heartbeat. A younger individual, thick-set and hostile-looking, had been disputing with the server regarding his check. His tone escalated, his anger intensified, until he pivoted and observed Walter quietly observing from his seat. Something regarding the elderly gentleman's unwavering stare, his composed demeanor, must have wounded the brute's delicate ego. Before anyone could prevent it, he charged forward and slapped Walter across the cheek. The impact resonated throughout the restaurant like a rifle blast. Dishes trembled. Patrons became motionless. And Walter, his face blazing crimson, merely placed his palm against his skin, shocked not by the sting, but by the brutality of the act. If you have faith and compassion, in honor for our elders, and in the strength of redemption, please consider taking time to appreciate this video, distribute it among companions, and follow Untold Stories 0.4. Your engagement helps circulate these meaningful tales of human connection. The establishment descended into profound quiet. The server, quaking, pleaded with the men to depart while the remaining patrons gazed downward at their meals, too frightened to interfere. Walter chose not to strike back. He remained positioned there, his aged palm concealing the new injury, his vision fixed upon the beverage he could no longer savor. He harbored no fear for his own safety. He had survived far greater hardships. However, his spirit grieved at the condition of society, at how swiftly dignity seemed to disappear when confronted with hubris. Minutes transformed into an hour. Walter remained in his seat, partially because his limbs felt too burdened to transport him outside, and partially because he possessed nowhere else to go. The restaurant served as his haven, the location where he was recognized simply as Mr. Branson, the courteous elderly gentleman who consistently provided generous gratuities, even when his retirement income was meager. Now even that refuge had been corrupted by aggression. Then the chime above the restaurant's entrance rang, and through it entered a collection of men whose mere arrival altered the environment. Leather garments adorned with prominent emblems, ink design spiraling down powerful arms, footwear that struck the ground with confidence. They belonged to the Hells Angels Motorcycle Club. At their core strode one taller than the others, his silver-touched facial hair lending him an aura of command. His gaze swept the space until it settled upon Walter. And in that instant, a wave of awareness crossed the old man's exhausted features. The group's leader was Thomas Branson, Walter's offspring. The aggressor who had attacked Walter remained in the restaurant, arrogantly conversing with a companion near the service counter, oblivious to what was about to transpire. However, Thomas immediately noticed the mark on his father's cheek, and his muscles tightened. The other motorcyclists observed as well. The space held its respiration, uncertain whether conflict would erupt once more. Yet Thomas didn't rush ahead. He advanced slowly, purposefully, to his father's table, positioned himself opposite him, and placed a rough palm over Walter's shaking one. The two men remained in silence for an extended moment, the connection between them wordless, yet undeniable. Walter, who had once cradled his son as a weeping child in his embrace, now gazed upon the man he had grown into, intense, devoted, unwavering. For years Thomas had been separated from him, his journey into the motorcycle culture one Walter found difficult to comprehend. Yet here in this restaurant, the years of separation held no significance. Family bonds did. The aggressor finally acknowledged the arrivals and chuckled. "What? You require your crew to shield you, elderly man," he mocked, rising and expanding his chest. The room grew tense once more, but Thomas stayed seated, his stare steady as granite. The other bikers positioned themselves behind him, silent, their existence sufficient to make even the boldest individuals reconsider their choices. Then Thomas articulated, his tone quiet yet resolute, each word saturated with command. "That gentleman you struck is my father. He's an 81-year-old serviceman who contributed more to this nation than you ever shall. And you considered it courageous to strike him." The thug's smirk wavered. Suddenly, the atmosphere's intensity bore down upon him. The gazes of the customers, the quietude of the bikers, the understated strength of the elderly man he had assaulted. Thomas didn't lift his hand. He had no need to. His declaration alone possessed a power surpassing any blow. Gradually, the aggressor retreated, mumbling something inaudible before escaping through the restaurant's entrance. No one pursued him. There was no necessity. His disgrace would accompany him further than any person could travel. Walter finally released his breath, the stress departing his frame. For the first occasion that morning, he permitted himself a modest, tired smile. His son had protected him, not through violence, but through devotion and dignity. The relationship that had been damaged for numerous years seemed to mend through that simple gesture. The server delivered fresh coffee to the table, her hands continuing to shake, and quietly expressed gratitude to Thomas and the others. Throughout the restaurant, customers started to whisper, the anxiety dissipating as though sunlight had penetrated dense storm clouds. Some even approached Walter to express words of admiration, embarrassed they hadn't intervened earlier. Walter regarded his son, his voice hoarse yet stable as he declared, "I engaged in conflicts long past, Thomas. However, nothing matches the struggle of maintaining your family united." Thomas acknowledged, sentiment appearing in his hardened facade. For all the years they had grown distant, this moment had reminded them both of what genuinely mattered. From that day onward, the restaurant became more than a location for morning meals. It transformed into a representation of reconciliation. Walter and Thomas would gather there frequently, sometimes accompanied by Thomas's motorcycle companions, who regarded the veteran with a reverence he had never requested, but profoundly valued. And each time Walter entered, people recalled that morning when a bully's malice was quieted not by violence, but by the gentle strength of family and respect. If this narrative moved your spirit, please demonstrate your support by appreciating this video, following Untold Stories 0.4, and sharing it with others. These accounts remind us that regardless of how fractured the world appears, demonstrations of love and loyalty can repair what has been damaged. And before we conclude, I would appreciate your commentary below. Do you believe compassion possesses the ability to heal fractured families? Your thoughts might inspire someone who requires hope today. Walter Branson completed his days with a restored sense of tranquility. No longer merely the solitary veteran in the corner seat, but a father who rediscovered his son in the most unexpected of circumstances. And to everyone who observed it, that restaurant became a reminder that even when facing cruelty, respect, loyalty, and love will forever possess the greatest power.